In the previous module, you added a button like this to the main window of the customer's application. Button is an element. As SAML is based on XML, you need to close elements correctly. So here, you can add a closing element to get valid SAML. But as there is nothing between the opening element and the closing element, you can omit the closing element and you can close the element directly with a slash. This is now a so-called self-closing element. In SAML, an element is mapped to a class. In this case, an instance of the button class is created. As you can see, on the button element, the content attribute is set. The attribute has the value @customer. An attribute in SAML is mapped to a property. This means that in this case, the content property of the created button instance is set to @customer. But there are also other attributes that you can set, like for example the click attribute. In this case, click is like content an attribute, but it is not mapped to a property. Instead, it is mapped to an event. Or to be more concrete, the click attribute is mapped to the click event of the button. The specified event handler button_click needs to be defined in the code behind file in C#. Now, this is a really important slide that you should memorize. Elements in SAML are mapped to classes and attributes are mapped to properties or events. This is quite obvious when you look at the equivalent C# code for this SAML snippet. In C#, you create a button instance and you set the content property, and then you attach an event handler to the click event. So this C# snippet makes it very clear that SAML elements are mapped to classes and that SAML attributes are mapped to properties or events. Now, in this demonstration, let's explore the button in the customer's app that we have created in the previous module. Let's switch to Visual Studio. Here I've opened the main window SAML file of the customer's app. On the button element, we set the properties content, horizontal alignment, vertical alignment, and margin. We have also defined an event handler for the click event. Then we have here a special attribute, the xName attribute, that is used to access the button with this name from the code behind file. So this is an exception where an attribute is not mapped to a property or an event. This is a special SAML attribute. Now when you look down here, you can see that we have created a closing element, but there is nothing between the opening element and the closing element. This means you can actually remove this closing element and you can close the button element directly with a slash. Alright, so far we set properties on this button with the so-called attribute syntax. We use attributes. In the next clip, you will learn more about another syntax which is called property element syntax.